People lie a lot, but it's really not that bad if you know what to look for. If you've ever personally bought a house, and I mean you personally, not as a real estate agent representing a buyer, if you've ever bought a house and you've gotten one of those ridiculous lists from the underwriter, last 2 months bank statements, copy of ID, the name has to match the name on this, like everything has to check out. That is essentially your job now. My best advice would be to just pretend that you are an underwriter. Here are the pillars for screening a tenant. You have the rental history verification, employment history verification, the credit, and the background. Now check with your local ordinance, whatever city or state or whatever county you live in, to make sure that you are not accidentally discriminating against somebody. For example, one of my areas is that you cannot solely discriminate, you can't decline somebody based solely on credit, or you can't take criminal history into account when declining a tenant. Little things like that is very area specific, so just make sure you know all the laws so you don't get in trouble. But absolutely the non-negotiable is everybody has to do the application. I know that's obvious, but you're gonna meet somebody and they're gonna have some kind of excuse to why they can't fill out the application. The biggest one I see is, oh, well, I don't have any credit history. I don't have credit cards. I don't have a credit report. So there's no reason for you to pull my credit because there's nothing there. Everybody has to do the application. And 85% of the time, they do have credit. Shocking. It's just really bad. Experian is really good about saying unable to pull credit report or insufficient credit history. They'll have little warnings like, hey, this person might not be bad. Their newest account is just 3 months old, so it's very hard for us to give their credit a number value. And I would just say, hey, I understand you think you don't have credit or you don't have credit. I understand. But everybody has to fill out the application, if only because I need everybody to have a criminal background. Anybody that's moving into this building or into my unit, I need to have a criminal background for everybody. So just go in there with your name, your date of birth, and your social security number. I need it on file. If they flat out refuse, that's gonna be a no. You can never, good or bad, judge a book by its cover. When you meet somebody, they are not good, they are not bad. It doesn't matter what they say. If they say something bad, that's not incriminating. If they say something good, does not mean that they are a saint. I have seen everything. I have seen attempted murder. I have seen domestic violence. I have seen possession. I have seen firearms. I've seen everything. You can meet me. You can be the kindest person. It doesn't matter. I am looking at your application. I'm looking at your employment history, rental history, credit, and background, period. Okay, so here's what I need from you in order to process your application. I need your last 2 pay stubs, a copy of ID, your tenant ledger from where you currently live right now, and the application that is done through whatever screening software you use. You could even use something as simple as Zillow, Turbo Tenant. They will all give you everything that you need. Now that branches off into a couple different things. If one, they're not on a W-2, you can't get the last 2 pay stubs. They would be on a 1099, self-employed. So either it's going to be in their name. In that case, you ask for the last 2 months bank statements, exactly as a bank underwriter would need. So you get the bank statements. It's either in their name or in the name of an LLC because it's a business. Typically 1099 folks have it on a business. You're going to the Washington or whatever Secretary of State, Oregon, Washington, whatever state you're in, you're going into the Secretary of State. You're making sure that this person whose name's on the ID, application, everything is registered governor, owner, whatever agent of the LLC that they are applying for. Typically banks will have the name of the LLC and the name of the individual underneath. Everything has to check out. If they are not members of the LLC that they are claiming, you just have to ask a lot of questions. You have to get the bigger picture for the tenant. Your whole objective is to find a tenant that's going to pay their rent and pay their rent on time. All the investigating that you're doing is just going to determine if this is that person. How they live, what they look like, what kind of car they drive, the clothes that they wear, none of that matters. Okay, I just want to say that again. People will surprise you. Another thing I love about having the bank statements is, one, obviously you see the income. You want to make sure that all that checks out. Again, you could do your own debt to income ratio, whatever it is, that type of income that you're looking for, or times the rental amount. That's for you. You can also see if it's some type of checking account, you could see when they're paying their rent, because you know how much it is, because it's on the application, you know where they live and how much they're paying in rent. And I've seen many times either the rent's always on time, it looks great, because you have 2 months, you can see consecutive months. You can see if their rent is late. You can see if their rental payment is a priority, and it should be, because they want to put a roof over their family's head. That's the income portion. Also, when you're checking W-2s, check like the year-to-date income. It'll just show employment history, if they just got the job yesterday, if they've been there for 5 years, you know, all that. Of course, you're calling employers. And when you're doing the rental history verification, okay, so I don't know what it's like in your market, but as of recently in my market, I'm not really liking this. But if you call those big apartment complexes, you want a rental history verification. Back in the day, you used to call, I'm calling for this person in this apartment, would you rent to them again? Okay, then you needed an authorization signed by the tenant to the apartment complex. Now, they're not even doing that anymore. They'll just tell me I can't answer those questions. And I say, don't worry, I have a release, I have an authorization, where can I email? We won't answer those questions even with the tenant's permission. So I'm like, okay. So they say the tenant can request a tenant ledger from the apartment complex. The apartment complex then emails it to the tenant, and the tenant has the option to either share it with me, their future housing person, or not. And I do this a lot. I get a lot of these tenant ledgers, and I just have to ask, how is that? I don't like this system, because it would be so easy. It's usually a CSV or a PDF or an Excel or just something that is very editable. I don't get how any of that's supposed to prove anything. I'm essentially an investigator, making sure that all the information on the application checks out. If it's coming directly from the tenant, how is that legit? So option 2 is you take that tenant ledger, email it back to the apartment complex and say, do these numbers, are all these numbers and account statuses, paid in full, not late, is it all accurate? Otherwise, how can you trust it? So your whole job is to be a skeptic and not trust anything. And then anyways, they lie about their pets. They lie about their income. Just everything. You just have to do, at the end of the day, you just have to do the best that you can within the legal parameters of what you have to work with. My name's Allie. I'm a principal broker and property manager in Oregon and Washington. I own my own real estate company, so I go through a lot of applications. I've seen it all. If you have any questions, just leave them down below.